Lando occurs in the movie. Big news about Aquaman 2. And we've finally got a confirmation about about Deadpool 3, which we're so excited to get into, and reviewing the outstanding, the massive episode 5 of Ahsoka. We have that all planned for this episode. It's going to be a big one, and I can't wait to dive into it. And I have a very special guest who is the man, the myth, the legend. I could not review this episode of Ahsoka without him. I have got Andy from the Galactic Core podcast. How you going, man?
Hey, bud. How are you doing? I am all good. Thank you very much for having me back on the show. And you know me, super excited to generally talk about anything Star Wars, but particularly this episode.
And what a monster of an episode it was, man.
Absolutely. So much going on. So much going on.
Oh, so much to the point where it was even in theaters. Like, that's how big this episode was.
Yeah, I was really hoping they were going to be showing it at a cinema near me in the UK, but it was showing in London, which is about 2.5 hours by train away. So unfortunately, couldn't make it up there for the cinema, but I got straight home from work and I was straight on that episode.
Glued to it. How many times have you watched it?
I've only watched it twice so far. I do intend to watch it more.
Now, I'm exactly the same. I watched it twice. I even got to the end of the episode. I was like, let's go again. That was pretty good. That was pretty freaking good. But before we all dive into it, guys, you know exactly what comes up next.
Welcome to the Light, Camera, Rant Podcast. Your source for the latest on movies, TV shows, and video games. Get ready for ranting, raving, and reviewing. Here is your host, Lee.
So for everyone who's listening, watching on whatever platform you are at the moment, thank you very much for coming back for this episode and coming back every single week. So before we dive into the Ahsoka 5 episode, Shadow Warrior, we've got some real quick news to get through, which Andy's going to come and help me with, and which straight off the bat, we have finally got the confirmation about Deadpool 3, which we know was spoken about. We know there was rumors, but the director has finally come forward that Deadpool 3 will officially have that stamp of R rating. How do you feel about that, man?
Excited. It's good to have that confirmation. You know, the last couple of Deadpool films wouldn't have been the same without being R-rated. So to get that stamp, and I think it's the first proper Disney one with an R rating as well, isn't it? So, yep, super excited that we're going to get a continuation of what those films have been like.
I'm just happy that I agree with you. I'm just happy that we finally, like, I was more worried, like I had no doubt it was going to happen, but it was more like, they're going to do it like, they will be PG, but the R rating one will be on DVD and do that kind of, but no, this will be Disney Marvel Studios' first R-rated film. Like we got like what was it? I forgot its name. Wolf by Night. Like that would have to be, yeah. That would have to be very close to being very brutal.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Which now I just remembered it. That's actually coming on Disney Plus. It is already at the moment on Disney Plus, but that is coming on Disney Plus in color. If anyone wants to watch it in color.
They've obviously got nothing new to put out with the strikes and everything, so let's re-release this in color instead.
Yeah, they'll eat it alive. Don't worry, they'll watch it. You're goddamn right, we will. You're goddamn freaking right.
Yeah, I'm super psyched to see Wolverine in R-rated film. That's going to be amazing.
That's going to be finally after 2001, 2002. Well, don't worry, Logan was R-rated, but we know with Deadpool it's going to be a little bit more bloody.
Oh yes.
But unfortunately, like everything everybody knows, there is no release date because everything's on strike, and even video game companies now under scrutiny. So it's one of those things like I'll just wait. Guess I'll just wait till it comes out.
I'll just sit on here on my backside and just Do nothing till then.
Yeah, nothing at all. I guess I'll just watch the Marvels.
I guess, yeah, just watch Loki, watch the Marvels, and then I'll wait for Christmas.
That's it. That's all it is. And speaking of what is meant to be coming because of the flip between Echo and What If Season 2, there is a rumor that we will get a trailer for What If Season 2 in October, which the episodes have leaked as well. It looks like it's not going to be, well, from the titles, doesn't look to be as coherent as Season 1, leading up to the final, leading up to the big battle. This looks a little bit more mismatch, if you will.
Yeah, I did see that leak as well. I'm not sure how I felt. I did think that when you look at the titles of some of those episodes, it looked, I don't want to use the word lame, but it felt like a letdown after maybe Season 1 and the way that built up to their finales. And we're getting obviously a retro story there, aren't we, of like Gamora beating Thanos, because we got that character in Season 1, but we didn't get that episode in Season 1. Along with
it's a leftover episode.
Yeah, along with a few others like Captain Carter finding the Hydra Stomper, which I kind of thought we got in Season 1 anyway. So, how that plays through, who knows? But I'm still excited for What If Season 2 because I really enjoyed Season 1. And I think obviously after this as well, we'll get the Marvel Zombies animated show, which is obviously going to be on the back of what we saw from Season 1 as well. So I'm really up for this season still.
Yeah, I'm the same. It got a lot of hate, but I didn't hate it. Like, I didn't think it was that bad. Like, it was very niche, I guess, like niche for more like the diehard fans or fans. Like, and I guess a big thing with the episode was the fact with T'Challa.
Yeah,
that was a big thing.
Yeah, it was obviously really good to hear Chadwick Boseman's voice. I knew it was one of the last projects he did, wasn't it, before he passed away? So.
Yeah, that was the last one, sadly. But and knocked out of the park.
No, he did. Yeah, he nailed it, to be fair. So it is, it's still one of my favorite animated series. Like, you can't see it because it's lower down behind me, behind all the Star Wars stuff, but I do actually collect the What If figures as well from that series. So
I'd always want to get Ultron. I would like to have as a because his whole suit and outfit was sick.
He's one of those annoying build a figure ones, so you have to get loads of the other ones to get all the parts to build him together, which is super annoying. But I do have the Pop Funko actually of Infinity Killmonger and Infinity Ultron, so they're quite cool.
Which even that Killmonger episode was killer. Is that the right word? But now a trailer October, so definitely keep your eyes peeled for that. And speaking of trailers, we've got Aquaman 2 trailer we got this week which is coming on December the 20th. This is the last DC project that we're beginning this year. A movie that unfortunately has been moved, butchered, changed, rewrites, meant to have possibly has filmed, I think, 2 or 3 different Batman scenes. And everything with Amber Heard.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, I wasn't overly excited by the trailer. It didn't. The only thing that got me really excited actually was Black Manta. It looked fantastic. His suit looked pretty sick. I know there was a scene obviously where Aquaman's riding the seahorse out of the ocean. That looked pretty dope. It was like a nice comic book reference. But yeah, apart from that, I think like a lot of people are not maybe overly excited by this film anymore due to all the stuff it's gone through and should we say the way that DC's gone recently. So we'll have to wait and see. Who knows? Could be amazing.
Well, the thing is, which still boggles me to this day, is that Aquaman 1 got $1 billion at the box office.
Yeah. It did well, didn't it? So.
Yeah, it did really well. So that's don't get me wrong. From the trailer, looks like it has some really cool set pieces, some tough action, and Black Manta's got the was it not Nightmare Trident? It was
Oh, it was the
Cursed
Black
Trident.
Trident. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Cal Daly. The trailer looked awesome. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like the trailer, which thank you again for coming past on the YouTube, buddy. The trailer didn't disappoint me. It didn't disappoint me. I didn't feel like this looks like a mess. Probably the only criticism I have for the trailer, it just feel like there was a lot of action snapshots. If you know what I mean.
yeah. No, I know what you mean. It's the trailers always look good though. I think this is the issue, isn't it? Like you can sit there and go, I thought the Flash trailer looked really, really good, and it got me quite hyped. And the product wasn't quite the same coming out of the cinema afterwards, but again, the trailer here looked decent. Like I said, I was super hyped to see how Black Manta was, and there were some really cool shots in this. There really were. I just really hope that it does live up to it.
So do I. And if anyone does remember, there was meant to be a spin-off movie called The Trench, which was secretly a Black Manta movie. And apparently James Wan says that got cancelled and elements of that has been put into this movie.
Nice.
And Jason Wan has said the fact is Mary meant to be like sort of like Rush Hour, Lethal Weapon between the two brothers trying to take on Black Manta. Cal. Aquaman handled the water world well and looked awesome. I think that why it was so successful, it had new characters with new actor that people like. That's true. No one dislikes Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
No, like men don't dislike him. Women definitely don't like him. And I always remember the fact that was it the I always know him from Stargate. And
yeah.
And even older people remember him from Baywatch.
What was his name in Stargate? Ronin?
Ronin, yeah. Cal, even if it's great, DC will scrap it, so that's it. Yeah, it's true. That's true. That's the sad thing is it was very much like the Flash. Like you're like, oh, that was really cool. Oh wait, that's right. It doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
Means nothing. Nothing anymore. But James Wan did say in an interview, he did someone asked him more about Batman, and he said, you have to watch. You'll have to find out. He kept it very neutral because apparently a big thing was they filmed these scenes. He said they filmed the scenes because they didn't know when the Flash was coming out.
Ooh, George Clooney. Ooh.
Oh no, God. He was good in Once Upon a Time in Venice. Once Upon a Time in Venice. I don't even know that one.
I've heard of that. I don't think I ever watched it.
2017, Bruce Willis and John Goodman. Yeah, that's true. Every time I think of John Goodman, all I think of is Monsters Inc. What was this? So what Batman did they keep in this Aquaman King Affleck? Yeah, that's the hard thing is they haven't said who's going to be in it. They've just filmed 2 scenes. Because moving forward for Flash, it was meant to be Ben Affleck. Sorry. It was meant to be Michael Keaton. Keaton. That was going to be moving forward, but then the change again, Batflick, and then now it's just up in the air. Popping in to say hi. We always watch Jason Momoa. Didn't know he was in Baywatch. I have to watch. He looks so young in Baywatch. It's weird seeing him without a beard. It's weird seeing him without dreads. Like
he does have a very young face.
Yeah. Well, Stargate and Game of Thrones, he had all that. But if you saw him in a lineup, you'd miss him straight away. But Andy, are you going to see Aquaman on opening weekend? Are you ready for more Fishman?
I will be going to see it. Yeah, it's because it's any superhero movie, I'll go and watch regardless. To be fair, but it's something I want to see because, like you said, the first film was decent and it made a lot of money. And it seemed like a good fit for Jason Momoa as the character as well. He seems to fit well into it. Plus a bit of Tamora Morrison as his dad popping up. So, I love that character, as we all know from Star Wars anyway. But yeah, I'm excited for this film to be able to go and watch it. I want to see how it does turn out, and I just hope that all the massive constant reshoots and the changes to it haven't ruined it, because they're trying to fit it in with the Amber Heard stuff and then moving forward to the new DCU. I really hope that they haven't screwed with it so much that it just turns out to be a choppy mess.
I hope not. And even the trailer, Amber Heard was only in it for like a blink and gone. Yeah. That was it. And another thing is what's his name? William Dafoe. William Dafoe is not returning. That. He's not returning due to scheduling conflicts, which I'm kind of bummed, because he was good in the first Aquaman. Cal, so sad. I wanted the Keane trilogy. I wanted the Batman Beyond movie, man. I'm right there with you. The villain is awesome, way better than Namor in the MCU. It's no more. That's how it's pronounced. No more, because love no more. Look, actually, that's a good point. If I put Wakanda Forever against Aquaman 2. I will have to admit, I found Namor more threatening than Aquaman. Aquaman, I feel like you could have a drink with, but I feel like Namor could literally burn your entire place down if you left a 6-pack holder in the ocean.
I think that's a fair assumption.
Yeah. Or he just, gets his sirens to sing, and everybody on the ship jumps ship into the water. And yes, Cal, Dolph Lundgren is returning for this one as well. But moving on, I know you're not a big fan of Big Mouth, but Big Mouth season 7 has been confirmed for October the 20th. And if you do get into this show, I would love to review it with you.
It's just that it's not that I don't like it or anything. I've just not heard much about it and never watched it. So it's I'm just looking at the picture you got up of it there, and I'm like, this looks random as hell. What is that? So like, I'll add it onto my list and see if I can get around to it.
Just watch the trial. It's about a whole. It's about a bunch of people who made this TV show. It's about kids going through puberty, but it is just downright like absurd, crude, and the kids all have a hormone monster. Fair. That, basically I'm telling them, like, you should, whenever you get the chance, and like pushes them for it.
Yeah, it does sound interesting. Maybe I'll have to watch it.
But it's crude. I will say, as crude as it is, as like filthy and like hilarious, it does tackle like anxiety, depression, like everything you always experience in school or all that. It handles that brilliantly, and I love that. I was like, that's how you feel. That's what does happen. They handle all those delicate situations really well. And then next minute, there's a bottle of lube going past. And like they had a spin-off show called Human Resources. Hugh Jackman is in it because we're talking about Deadpool 3. He plays a drug fairy with 3 dicks.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I think that's all I got to tell you.
Fair enough.
As random as for One Piece fans, Netflix has confirmed season 2 is coming and is renewed. From this time last week when we spoke about it, that hadn't announced it yet, which is usually sometimes a hit and miss with Netflix, because I think it was a little bit of a big gap between they actually renewed Wednesday season 2, which was a global phenomenon more so than One Piece. But for a show, obviously we know what Netflix is like with their adaptions. This adaptation is getting some really good reviews. on how Netflix has handled it. Yes, there's things they can work on, but everything I've seen is really positive. And some of the clips I've seen, like comparison from the anime to the show, almost like spot on.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about the show. Sometimes I think the phrase "the best show on Netflix" is banded around a bit too much, but this has been put up there from what I've heard into one of the top shows that it's had.
Top shelf.
Nice.
But yeah, as we all know, Netflix is hit and miss with their adaptions. Now, how do you, the man that you are, how do you feel about this? Apparently, the Lando TV show that I feel like has been in development hell for a very long time is now is going to be turned into a movie. So that's going to apparently going to happen. There's no release date. There's no confirmation, but they're currently working on it. But it will be coming. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I was actually quite psyched for the show when they first announced it. They announced it as part of their initial roster when Disney Plus said they were going to be doing this sort of Star Wars universe of TV shows and films. So I was super psyched for it. I like Donald Glover as a young Lando. I think he did a really, really good job in Solo. I wasn't a huge fan of the Solo film overall, but I thought he was a shining light in it. So I was looking forward to him being in a series. Whether now that the fact that it's a film rather than a show, I'm maybe not too bothered about that. To be fair, I don't think that's maybe the worst thing. I don't necessarily think he needed an entire series, but I think a well-written, good film will just add a bit more to that Lando character.
I agree. Like, don't get me wrong, he wasn't. I can't say when I walked out of Solo, I was like, oh my God, I need a Lando movie. For no apparent reason, I need a Lando movie. But I have no doubt it'll be good, especially with his team that's writing it and putting it together. My only thing is, in the vast, vast world of Star Wars, is how are they going to make a movie? Where is it going to take place? Are they going to get Aldrin Killian back to be Han Solo? Like, is it going to be obviously it has to be a sequel to that, but I just don't know. Yeah, who's the bad guy or?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, what kind of compelling story could they give us for him that would make it worthwhile in sort of, because it's probably going to be obviously in between like where the Solo film was in the original trilogy, So with again going back to that sort of timeline where we've already got Kenobi, we've got Andor, we've got Rebels. In that sort of 5-year gap, maybe before the original trilogy, seems like the most sensible place for them to put it because everything's happening. They've got a lot going on around that timeline. But I know what you mean in terms of, do we really need a series or a film led by him? Like, I'd have been quite happy if he'd have been like a recurring or like a side main character in someone else's series. So he pops up after a couple of episodes and then he stays there for most of the series as like a side character.
Yeah, like I'd be happy if he was, in the Book of Boba Fett or a Mando, something like. Oh no. Yeah, it'd have to be
a bit older at that point.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Even Obi-Wan, we have to be even older than that. Like Obi-Wan would probably be the next thing. But yeah, I just don't know how it will take place or how it's going to look. But I'm probably not like, we need that. We need that Lando movie, bro. We need it. But yeah, for any Lando fans, don't you worry. You will get your serving. Just there is no release date whatsoever. Now, you lost a bet because of this, partially. So, to my surprise, Oppenheimer, an R-rated movie, has now become the third highest grossing movie in 2023, which is insane to think about because it has surpassed Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is a PG movie, and it is past that an R-rated flick. It has become the highest rated biopic, highest grossing biopic movie, Christopher Nolan's second highest grossing movie after Dark Knight. So currently, right now, the highest grossing movies in 2023 are Barbie, Super Mario, Oppenheimer, and Guardians of the Galaxy. That's all down. So do you think it's well deserved?
Probably. I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it.
That's-
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie. Like I think most people know, I don't always take well to the most serious of serious films, and simply because I'd like to my more sarcastic um, type films and my more sci-fi stuff.
have you seen The Room?
The Room? No, I haven't.
You haven't seen The Room? You should definitely Google The Room.
It's I will watch Oppenheimer at some point. It was just I wasn't like rushing to the cinema to see it because I knew it isn't necessarily my cup of tea to sit there for the 3 hours and watch this. Despite the fact that I obviously have seen the trailers and thought, yeah, this does look like a good film. It's something I am more likely to wait for it to come on to streaming services to watch before, rather than, even though I've got a monthly cinema pass, it wouldn't cost me anything to go and watch it. Just 3 hours of my life. So, but yeah, so it's something I will watch at some point, but I've not rushed out there to watch because I know it doesn't necessarily sit in my normal cup of tea, should we say?
Yeah, which is totally fair. And if you when you do go to watch it on streaming, I think it's event film is probably the best way I can describe it. It's just one of those movies that you've just got to, even if you don't give a shit about the war or don't give a shit about just what Christopher Nolan has crafted in cinema is enough for the price of admission alone.
There has been a big debate recently. Oops, sorry, Karen.
I was going to say, I don't know how it would come out, but I would love to see Christopher Nolan tackle a Star Wars film. Like any era, anything off the table. I feel like something he in that kind of universe with what he does would be outstanding to watch.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I would love to see him do a proper, dead serious Star Wars film. Something probably more along the lines of like something with the Jedi and the Sith empires and the battles that they had. I think he
Knights
would
of the Old
lend really
Republic?
well. Yeah, I think he would lend really well to doing that without having to necessarily shoehorn in the type of humor that Star Wars normally puts into its films. So Star Wars films, for the most part, are kind of serious, but they do obviously like to put the odd jokes and obviously stuff in there. So you've got those light-hearted moments as well. But I think Christopher Nolan would lend well to doing a serious, something like Knights of the Old Republic.
I agree with you, and that's right. Yeah, Cal, you're right. Zack Snyder has, and soon we'll see with Rebel Moon, which is what was the comment I saw? It was sex, violence, and swearing in Star Wars. That was the tagline for Rebel Moon.
It's going to be an interesting one, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. And also for any Nightmare Before Christmas fans, for October there is returning to theaters for its 30th anniversary of this iconic Tim Burton film. It is coming back. Can't believe it's been 30 years. That's mind-boggling. But have you seen this, Andy?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, thank God.
I'm not that much of an ass.
No, I did. That's not what I meant.
You know me, I'm terrible with watching a lot of films. Like when they're not in my wheelhouse. But yeah, I've grown up watching this film, so
yeah, I'm exactly the same. Like I still listen to the soundtrack when it comes around Halloween and Christmas. Yeah, utter classic of a film. And look, he did do was it Frankenweenie and Corpse Bride, but
Corpse
this
Bride,
is just it's got that level. Yeah, and all the songs are classic, and I think it's going on a bit years now, but they did they made a cover album for its I think it's 20th anniversary, and it's got Marilyn Manson, Rise Against, a whole bunch of other people all doing covers of the songs.
I do vaguely remember that. Yeah.
Which is weird to hear, but it was really good. I think that because it was a 20th anniversary and they brought out in 3D. That's right. Yeah. But I'm very tempted to go see it at the theaters, but I'll probably be by myself if I do it. But let's get on to the main course. The main holy shit. That is episode 5 of Ahsoka, Shadow Warrior. And Andy, what was your first initial thoughts when you saw the credits roll up?
It was just such mixed emotions, to be fair. Initially I was expected to see Thrawn in this episode, and the fact that because Dave Filoni was directing it, and I always thought he would want to be the one that handled his transition to live action. So the fact that he didn't appear in this episode, I was slightly surprised at. But on the flip side of that, anyone who knows me, especially well, Anakin / Vader is my favorite character of all time. There's so much stuff behind me on my shelves dedicated to this character. So to get to see even more of him outside of the Skywalker saga and the original prequels and the original trilogy, yes, it was just yes all the way through. I could have done with even maybe my initial thoughts were always like I could have done with less Hera and more Anakin for this episode as well. But when you've watched it a second time, they're both halves of where this episode is, with Hera and Jason, and then Ahsoka and Anakin play into each other so well that I couldn't begrudge that in the end. But yeah, I had to avoid social media so hard for this because it was shown in both America and the UK on Tuesday night in cinemas. And then it gets released because they changed the times it gets released everywhere. So in the UK, it comes out at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. So I'm already in bed at that time. I've got to get up at like 6 a.m. for work, so I'm not staying up to watch it. So I have to wake up in the morning, go to work, and get home without going through Facebook, Instagram, and everything else, and have anything spoiled for me. And so it was killing me that I'm sat at work on my breaks on Wednesday lunchtime going, I can't go on anything because I don't want anything spoiled. Finally get home, watch it, and it was just, but the love I have for this particular character and for this episode then of it being bigged up to be one of the biggest events of Star Wars, it didn't let down, to be fair. The writing was perfect. The portrayals, the flashbacks. Yeah, exactly. I don't think we were ever going to stop talking about how good this episode was.
No, I agree with you. I feel like this is going to be something that will be spoken about for a very long time when people reminisce about Star Wars and everything, or when someone says, or what should I watch? It's like, I recommend you go watch 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Obi-Wan.
Clone Wars.
Clone Wars. Ahsoka before you get to 4, 5, and 6. But it's I like when I finished the episode, my first thing was like, I thought in my head, I'm like, that's freaking Star Wars. Like that is, I know with Andor, the sequel trilogy, I feel like there was unworthy complaints about Obi-Wan. I feel like this was just, that was that hook in the mouth. Get over here. This is freaking Star Wars to a T. Like this is something you show somebody.
Yeah,
it's mystical. It's mystical. There's lightsaber battles. There's poetry. It rhymes. It's like poetry. And it was all in this episode. And regardless of it being, like as you said, I didn't feel like we got too short of Anakin. Like I didn't feel like we didn't have enough of those scenes. I feel like the back and forth was well balanced.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's one thing Disney are known for is cutting short episodes in the middle of series. For some reason, they like to have them cramped down in time frames. But this was, a nice longer episode. I mean, you could have made this 2 hours long, and I wouldn't have cared to have all that more interaction between them. And And it was, it's just my love for Anakin knows no bounds in terms of getting to see more of that character, because people like he's got an entire saga named after him. He was obviously so prominent in the Clone Wars TV series, which some of us here haven't watched, but it was just the more you give the context of this character, especially where the fact that he's now technically passed away in the Star Wars universe, it's just giving more context to a character that is sometimes, even though he's had so much exposure, is still not necessarily best understood.
No, and that's right. And this was a big thing which I'd love to get your take on. Is I was going to graciously be a guest on the Why So Sidious podcast, and this was something we did speak about. What do you think this world is? I know it's a world. The most thing is it's a world between worlds, but that hasn't been said by everything hasn't been said by Anakin or Ahsoka, or in the what do you call it? Even the subtitles don't say it. Where do you think this word actually is? My take was I felt like this was almost like a world purgatory. Like this is a world you see before you go to heaven or hell for a Jedi.
Okay. Interesting.
Because she's seen someone like for example, when Anakin died, he would have seen Obi-Wan.
Well, there is an interesting thing to raise about that, which I will get onto. But to answer your initial question, I tried to sort of postulate about what happened with this episode in terms of where they were, because we know obviously World Between Worlds came up in End of Rebels, so Ahsoka's familiar with this place. She would have recognized it straight away. But my initial thoughts were has she actually been pulled into the World Between Worlds by Force Ghost Anakin? And so she is standing there having this chat with Force Ghost Anakin, and he's using his ability in the cosmic force to have this chat with her and give her these visions to teach her a lesson. Or because she's fallen in the water and knocked unconscious, whatever, is this a vision that she's having in her own mind rather than physically happening? So it's the Force is trying to teach her a lesson by putting these visions into her head. The cosmic force as a whole knows that she's been in the World Between Worlds, so it uses it as a familiar place for her to have a chat with an embodiment of Anakin that she's familiar with, to teach her a lesson that she already technically knows, but she needed to be reminded of. And then I had to go to the fact that it wasn't necessarily a vision, and it was a sort of World Between Worlds actual thing, because when we hear Jason and Hera stood on the cliff top and they're listening to the fact that they can hear lightsaber clashes going on through the waves, I don't think that would happen. Because I raised a point of if this was a vision in her head and Jason was tapping through the Force to be able to hear that, then Hera shouldn't be able to hear it because she's not Force sensitive. Whereas if it's an actual World Between Worlds things, then maybe there's a chance that Hera would hear that as well, because it's sort of coming through the World Between Worlds to the waves to the real world. So I then put it in as it is more of a World Between Worlds type thing rather than a vision in her head, for those reasons all joined together when you think about it all as one whole.
Yeah, I can understand that. And speaking of that speaking of the hearing of the waves, that's a Force ability we haven't seen. That's two now Ahsoka that we have not seen before. Both this and the Echo, the Force Echo.
Well, we have seen that in the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor games with Cal Kestis. He has that ability.
Well, yes, in live action, I mean.
Oh yeah, fair.
Yeah, in live action, I mean, which I did like that scene. I thought that was really cool. How I thought it was really cool. Can you hear the waves crashing? So next time I go to the beach, I'm going to be like,
is there someone out there having a battle?
Nah, just sounds like people drowning. No, and I will admit. So, how do you feel about this is one thing I did love, is that this Force Ghost of Anakin must have the full memories, past, present, and future, because Ahsoka does go to him, I'm not going to fight you, and Anakin turns and goes, I've heard that before, which was a straight reference to Luke saying that to him. And which we get a great battle. We get the good old Anakin flip and the spin, which was excellent. And then we go into the flashback, which the flashback gave me Rogue One vibes. Like this was gritty, this was dark, there was nothing hopeful.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the whole flashback stuff was fantastic. We can get into that in a sec. But in terms of your question about Anakin and retaining all of his knowledge, obviously, I'm in touch with Dave Filoni and George Lucas a lot of the time, so I can confirm some things for you. Obviously,
the Master and Apprentice, as always, too.
Indeed. There is a book that came out literally like a week before this episode called From a Certain Point of View. I don't know if you've seen the previous ones in this series. These are based, they did one for A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and they just released the one for Return of the Jedi. These are a bunch of short stories about some of the background and side characters throughout the films to give a little bit more context to their stories and stuff like that. Like in Empire Strikes Back, there's a great story about the Wampa that attacks Luke, which is actually a very sad story. I won't go into it, but you should look into it. And even and various
his
different
whole
ones.
family died.
Oh yeah, so like when the rebels took over Hoth, they took over the caves where his family were and drove them out. He don't know what happened to his family, so he was trying to survive in this cave. And when Luke chopped his arm off, he was thinking that he was going to die, and his thoughts were the fact he was never going to get to see his son again. And he spent weeks recuperating, and by the time he recuperated, he stormed the rebel base where his home used to be in order to try and attack them and drive them out, and found it deserted. And he never found his family in the end. So it's a very, very sad story.
Good Lord.
I know, mate. It was so emotional. I was really going, this is not what I expected to read, but it was so sad. You feel bad for that Wampa now. There's even a story about the Tauntaun that Han rides out into the snow and they end up, that dies, and they cut it open to keep Luke warm. The fact that Tauntaun's daughter was the one that Luke originally rode out, that the Wampa killed.
Oh my God.
And that she was Leia's Tauntaun, but agreed to go out with Han because she wanted to find her daughter. And she ends up dying and keeping them warm through the night. So all these
why
getting sidetracked, but there's some
thing.
But like in the original, in the New Hope book, there's stories about the Jawa that works on R2 before he gets sold to obviously Luke and his family. There's just loads of extra stories basically about side characters and background characters that adds a lot more context to these films. And there's some obviously in there about some of the main characters. But the story I was going to say is in this new one, there's a short story called Brotherhood by Mike Chen, I think his name is. He recently did a brand new novel that came out as well called Brotherhood that was about Anakin and Obi-Wan just after the start of the Clone Wars in Episode 2. So he does this short story that basically picks up on where Anakin dies at the end of Episode 6 as Vader / Anakin. And it talks about him going into the Force and where he does retain all of his knowledge and his personality. And he basically has a chat with Obi-Wan. So it's about Obi-Wan and Anakin reuniting in the Force after Anakin's passed away. And it adds a bit more context to his character. And I think maybe this was done slightly deliberately as well, because we get this Anakin that's obviously a bit after this as well. So we know that Anakin's retained his knowledge and everything about him in his personality in the cosmic Force. And so therefore it lends a bit more weight to the conversation that he then has with Ahsoka, because he learns in this short story that he can let go of everything that's held him back before. Kenobi tells him that he's got to own the things that he did when he was alive, all the bad things, but he also did good things.
The younglings.
Everything he did as Vader, he's got to own that, and that's on him. But he's got to learn to let go of other things as well, and he becomes basically balanced within the cosmic Force as a personality after his death, and he learns to let go. And so we see this moment when he battles with Ahsoka, and he's obviously got his Sith eyes on and his red lightsaber. Which, can I just say, I love the fact that I finally got to see in Episode 3 Anakin with a red lightsaber. We wanted this before, but we didn't get it, and we got it now. But he manages to balance himself in that talk with Ahsoka, where he goes from he takes a step back, closes his eyes, comes back as normal Anakin rather than Sith Anakin. And this is, to me, was an extension of that short story where he's learned to balance himself and let go of the things that held him back.
That yeah, I didn't even know that was all. That was a thing. The only thing I could think of was Obi-Wan would be going to him, Anakin. What the you do?
He's pretty forgiving to him in that short story. To be fair,
Yeah, we're all dead because of you.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Essentially, and that's an interesting thing. Is I did see like yourselves, people saying, "Oh, Anakin with the red lightsaber." I didn't I didn't really think twice. I'm like, that's right. We never actually got that. Like, we never like, cause he has his blue one all the way until he turns. Like, he never has that red lightsaber.
And it was a simple reason, simply the fact that when they apparently did the screen testing in episode 3, he had a red lightsaber when they're battling on Mustafar, but it didn't go well against the lava background. So they decided to keep him with the blue lightsaber. That's the only reason we never got a pre-suited Vader with a red lightsaber.
Which I think is fair. Like, I wouldn't have.
I can understand that.
You would have not had that iconic shot where they're both like pushing each other.
Yeah.
With the sabers, it would have not worked at all. Too much blending. And then, are you happy to get General Anakin?
Yeah, to see him in his, because we've seen several mock-up shots of Anakin in his Clone Wars armor before. There's one of the figures behind me here is like Clone Wars Anakin, where it's like Hayden Christensen's face, but obviously on the Clone Wars armor. So to see that in live action was a really great moment. They did such a good job of making him look like the animated character version of the Clone Wars. The haircut, the armor, everything was superb.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And not only Anakin, but young Ahsoka. Ariana, she not only has she nailed as Ahsoka, but she's Infinity War, Barbie. She's how old and already has $3 billion franchise under her belt.
And she's only only other 16?
Person, 16. The only other person that has that kind of weight to it is Gamora. I forgot her name.
Yeah, I know what you mean. For some reason, her name's just got out of my head as well. But yeah, she's been in every $2 billion film that's
Avatar, Infinity War, Endgame. Like, she's been there, but she nailed it. And this is a big thing is that I did think when I was watching this, I was like, wow, she's actually really young. Like, all this going on really makes you think that she really is that young, that she's just grown up in war. That Jedi obviously meant to be keepers of the peace. That they're soldiers. So she's joined the Jedi, not at the wrong time, but you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, she joined the Jedi when she was 3 years old, and I think she's, if my memory serves me correctly, she was 13 at the start of the Clone Wars. So 10 years growing up as a youngling and going into to being a Padawan, like she said during these flashbacks as well, she's like, "This is not what I signed up for. I didn't, join the Jedi when I was 3 years old or whatever to become a leader or a warrior in war." But this is then what she's known for most of her life. She's been fighting wars and fighting battles that before the Jedi haven't really had to do for 1,000 years or so.
No, and that's the thing. She's like, is that my legacy as well? Death and destruction.
Yeah, it was so well done. I mean, in terms of the lesson Anakin's trying to impart to her as well, I've seen several different interpretations of what people are taking away as the lesson that she's been taught. And is that something, that doesn't matter what she thinks her legacy is, she's been taught to survive. She was taught by Anakin to survive what we now know to be Order 66. She's been taught to survive being in wars. But she's also got to learn, she's got to adapt to the times that she's in the battles that she's in. So it doesn't matter if she's part of a war, whether she's part of an individual battle or whether she's just battling within herself. She's been taught to survive all these scenarios. And she's got to come out of that as a more balanced, better person. And as we know, she comes out of it at the end of the flashbacks as Ahsoka the White. And she seems a lot more balanced and a lot happier.
It's Gandalf the White, mate. It's Gandalf.
Sorry, wrong franchise.
Yeah. Gandalf the White, which Which brings me to what I think we obviously really kicked this off is that she, as we've seen in Clone Wars, she and Rebels, she really struggled to wrap around the fact, oh, my master is an absolute murderer and massacre and genocidal maniac. And which on top of that, Balin really pushes that in the previous episode. He's like, you will suffer the same, or something like along the lines, you will suffer the same fate as your master.
Yeah.
But she's obviously worried about Sabine.
I mean, I think you do need to watch from where those two episodes back to back in a way, because the lesson that she gets taught by Anakin is partly because of how differently she acts compared to how she wants to be or how she tells Sabine to act. Because in that previous episode, she's telling Sabine that, the mission comes above everything, even at personal costs. So, we have to stop them from going to getting the map and going somewhere. It doesn't matter how you feel about anything else, about your connection to Ezra or Hera or anything like that. You have to put the mission above all else. Put personal attachments aside, essentially, like the Jedi used to do. But in that episode itself, when she's battling Balin and Shin turns up, she thinks that Shin's defeated Sabine and Sabine's maybe dead. And she gets angry and emotional in that moment. And we see her force throw Shin into a wall. And she gets angry. And then when Sabine turns up again and she gets emotional again, almost that sense of relief that she is alive. So she is telling Sabine not to use personal attachment and emotion in these situations, yet she hasn't helped but do that herself. And it's cost her in the battle with Balin.
Which I look forward to their rematch now.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's right. It's you see how unbalanced with the Force is that she is at the start, and obviously after with the Anakin. Oh, and the Siege of Mandalore too. We do get that, and obviously the references to Darth Maul, and it is explained that this happens at the same time as Revenge of the Sith, which is why they're not together. Correct?
Yeah, because basically at this stage, Anakin and Kenobi have gone off to save the Chancellor and all the incidents that are happening there. And yeah, Ahsoka's taken half of the 501st and 332nd, gone to Mandalore to capture Maul and stop his army as well. So yeah, that's why Anakin makes that reference of I don't remember this battle, and she's like, well, we parted ways by this point. So, but it was
I remember
even
this at all.
That battle was an important lesson for Ahsoka. And it's where she maybe had too much faith in Anakin, because there's a great chat between Maul and Ahsoka where they're talking about what's going on with Sidious and the fact that the Republic and the Jedi are about to fall. And Ahsoka's like, I will join you and help you stop Sidious. But then she's like, I've got to ask though, why did you want Anakin to come here? And he tells her, obviously, he's being groomed as the next apprentice for Sidious.
Yeah.
And she then tells him that he's wrong. And that's what leads to their showdown. And it's just Ahsoka had too much faith in him.
I have seen that. And I the reason I've seen that is because there was a great, when it got released, there was a really good behind the scenes of how that lightsaber duel was shot. For anyone who's listening, definitely go, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. They did the full mocap and everything for that scene.
And Ray Park coming back to do Maul as well, the battle for Maul.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, which you could tell in that scene that that's him. And you can understand, which leads to that scene. Anakin goes, I'm not making a choice. And he's like, incorrect, which we get the flip, which leads to the next fight, which was really good. And now I'd love to know your interpretation. Now, did Ahsoka have Sith eyes, or do you think it was just a reflection from the dark saber? Sorry, red saber.
I think she did for a brief moment. From what I've seen, I've looked at several pictures of it. I've looked at the scene a couple of times. Initially, I thought it was just a reflection, but she does seem to have, like, the corneas do turn that sort of Sith yellow for a moment. With the red tinge of the lightsaber in them. So it does seem that for a moment, because what I equated this to as well was in the Mortis trilogy, the Mortis arc of the Clone Wars, she sees like a vision of her future self telling her that the seeds of the dark side have already been implanted in her by her master, which is obviously Anakin. And to me, that kind of goes back to the fact that she then potentially still has the seeds of the dark side in her. Like anyone can obviously give into weakness and potentially turn. But it was just that sort of moment where, to me, it was like a cool little potential. Maybe it's just me being an absolute nerd about these things, that I thought of that straight away. And went, connection to that. She, the Sith eyes come out on her, but then she's able to, again, to like Anakin does straight afterwards, center herself and go, I choose to live because I want to do the right thing here.
And obviously Anakin disappears as well, which I saw a really good thing on TikTok, which was, this is a very parallel scene with Anakin and Dooku, as opposed to where she had the saber to Anakin, he threw it away. She threw it away and said, "I'll live," where Anakin chose death. But in saying that, Anakin didn't have a really old prick in a chair going, "Do it. Go on, you wimp. Do it. Do it." So,
you only wanted revenge. He cut off your arm, so you cut off his head.
Yes, that's right. Come on. If you don't do it, he wins. He knows it.
But the transitions, though, in those scenes where, when he kicks her out of the vision and go back into the world between worlds, and he's walking up to her and he sort of like shrugs, ready for battle, and it just transitions from Anakin Vader. It was, can I use the word orgasmic as a Star Wars scene?
Yeah, I guess you could. It makes sense. And that scene is, I saw someone post as well, which I shared as well. Like this pick alone, this transition is standalone and is Star Wars to a T. I love that, and I love the bit when going back when he's General Anakin and he's walking with the stormtroopers, and then it also flashes again.
Yeah. So sort of like Ahsoka's having that vision that this is Anakin's path and that he does turn that way, isn't it? So yeah. These transitions were so beautifully done.
Thank you, Dave Filoni. You are indeed the apprentice, and your master will be very happy. Very happy. Which gives us even more faith for the Dave Filoni movie, for the Mando verse movie that is coming. So obviously, where she wakes up, they find her after they listen to the waves of the sabers. I loved Carson with Hugh Young. It's like, oh, young Jason, his father was a Jedi. He is also touched with the Force. Huh, okay.
Fair.
Cool. And I love the fact when he goes up to the Republic starship, is like, so you're not going to believe me what I'm about to tell you.
Yeah, that was good.
There's a bunch of space whales. They're going to get inside them and fly in hyperspace. And I think a lot of us was very much like Hugh Yang, where he's like, oh, do you know where they're going to take us? No. What?
I think that also showed, whilst it was humorous, it showed a bit more of the way that Ahsoka's come out of that episode, in terms of she feels a bit more connected to the Force in general, because she was able to connect with the Purrgil, and then she's very smiley in every single bit of this afterwards, and she was just very much like it doesn't matter whether they're taking us directly to Ezra now or not, or to Thrawn now or not, but they're taking us somewhere which is better than nowhere. So it's like taking the journey now as it comes, as opposed to trying to plan out everything and stop them at every single moment. It's just, this journey is going to take me where it needs to take me, and I've got to trust that the Force will be doing so.
Well, that's right. Or another way you can look at it is that if you fall off a cliff, become unconscious, and wake up from also being swimming, is that you can now speak to whales.
Cool. So this is Aquaman's wife, yeah?
Yeah. I didn't know this was Aquaman 2.
This is the prequel to Aquaman 2.
Exactly right. Aquaman, space whales. Yeah, I found that she was very smiley. She's very hopeful, like Luke hopeful, Obi-Wan hopeful. of what's
This is what
going
I
to
mean.
happen next.
Her entire outfit's changed. It's all gone lighter, and she's wearing white instead of like dark grey. This whole change of attitude. So she's more in line. She's becoming more of a Jedi than I think she was, in the previous 20 years before this. So
Yeah.
I think she's
Which-
kind of accepted that, while she walked away from the Order, she is still a Jedi regardless of how she feels.
Well, that's right, because isn't all these she's meant to be a grey Jedi? Isn't that the?
I mean, let's not get me started on the whole Jade Grey scenario.
Oh, okay.
but she is a light side Force user that sort of almost sticks to the Jedi code, but doesn't stick to their philosophy and their rules.
Okay, so they can still go and they can still bang anybody they like freely.
Technically, the Jedi could always do that. It was just the attachment they weren't allowed to have. It's documented that lots of Jedi like to sleep around. They just weren't allowed to have attachments and be in relationships, get
So
married,
you
have
could keep
kids, and
them.
turn to the dark side.
So
They can still kick it.
I was gonna say, Jedi code, come and go. That's it.
Literally.
That's it. Anyway, well, yeah, because it's great. Because is Rey meant to be a grey Jedi? Is it a grey Jedi because she's got the orange saber? Oh no, it was a yellow.
Yeah, she's got a yellow saber.
Yeah.
Yellow saber doesn't mean that she's in the middle. Technically, if you want to get about the Jedi lightsaber, the lightsaber color, sorry, the people that had yellow lightsabers were known as Sentinels because they were mostly the Jedi Temple guards in the Clone Wars and before that. So that they basically gave up their entire identities to just be protectors of the temple and protect everything in there. So the lightsaber colors seem to be becoming less and less meaningful as time goes on. Because if you've got a red, you're a dark side user. Or obviously, we know that Balin and Shin don't have fully red lightsabers; they've got more orangey red, so they're not fully Sith. That's the distinction there. If you've got a green lightsaber, you're supposed to be more deeply connected to the Force. If you've got a blue lightsaber, you're more of a warrior within the Force. If you've got a purple lightsaber, it just means you're Samuel L. Jackson and you want to be cool.
You're a bad MF.
So there was supposed to be meaning behind them. Why Rey has a yellow one, I don't know. I haven't actually read if there was any specific reason she has a yellow one, if they just wanted to give her a different color.
It's because she's a Skywalker.
Yeah, I wouldn't class Rey as a grey Jedi either, to be fair, because she wants to be a Jedi. She wants to be part of it. And it's even said she is the last Jedi. And we know she's doing a film about a new Jedi Order. So I wouldn't really class her as a grey Jedi.
That's true. And we all know what a new Jedi Order does every single time.
Dies.
Yep. Youngling 3000. Youngling Slayer 3000. Yeah. And how do you feel the fact that it was only 3 episodes left and no Thrawn? Like, 3 episodes will probably go for about 40 minutes each. No Thrawn. So, top theory I have, Thrawn will arrive. Thrawn will semi-win. He will be the big baddie for the Dave Filoni movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are 2 things to cover here for me, and that is that one, after an episode this epic, will the rest of the series be a slight letdown from now onwards? Because have you peaked too early? You wanted this had to be obviously around this kind of episode had to be mid-series. There was no way you could do this. I mean, you could have potentially done this as maybe an episode as the penultimate episode of the series where Ahsoka has her moment with Anakin and then comes out to fight Thrawn on the other side of it. So will the next episode or 2 be a disappointment? I mean, that's after being at such a high note, will it be a slight letdown? That's a worry. The other side of that is how much Thrawn will we get now? If they're on the way to the galaxy in the next episode, we should really see Thrawn appear. What I'm worried about is Michael from Star Wars' prediction is going to come true, that we won't see Thrawn until the finale. And even then, we won't get that much of him. We'll only get like 10 minutes of him or something, and that'll be it. If that happens, I'm going to be annoyed. So I won't be too happy. I would have liked Thrawn to have appeared by now.
I agree. I agree. I was expecting him much sooner because he was in the trailer. He was in the trailer, so I assumed he would be in it more in it. But at the same time, the episodes that we have gotten without him haven't, like, his weight isn't there. Like, we've still got such strong episodes without him. But if he's in the last, he's not going to die in 3 episodes for how big he's going to be.
No, I still imagine there was going to be possibly an Ahsoka season 2 to have a bit more of a Thrawn involvement before the Mandoverse Dave Filoni film. I've laid out my predictions a few times for this particular film because as we know, it's wrapping up the Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and it should be wrapping up Skeleton Crew as well because that's set in the same timeline.
Well, actually, yes, which the Why So Serious Boys did actually come up with a great theory too about that, which was because Skeleton Crew. Where are you? Skeleton Crew. The plot is the series follows 4 kids who end up on an adventure to make their way home after being lost in a galaxy following a discovery they make on their home planet. So is this galaxy that Ahsoka's going to where the Skeleton Crew is?
Interesting. That is an interesting and a good theory, actually. I do like that. Yeah, I do like that theory, to be fair.
Because it makes sense why we have no idea who any of these people are.
And why they've been marketing for it so far. Maybe they were just waiting for Ahsoka to be aired and that like maybe Jude Law make an appearance as someone who is a Force user in this galaxy.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
They bump into them. They bump into them at the...
Yeah.
Here we go. Plot. Bump into the Skeleton Crew in the last episode. And Skeleton Crew is leading up to them meeting Ahsoka at the end.
Nice.
Printed.
But yeah, I do see Thrawn being the big bad of the Dave Filoni Mandoverse film. Everything leading up to that moment and all of them coming together as forces. Because I predicted in this film, this is where we also see the rise of the First Order. Because it's by the time it comes around, it's going to be somewhere in the region of about 10, 15 years before Episode 7. So it's about when the First Order starts to come around. I've also predicted that this is the film where Ahsoka and Thrawn will also die. Ahsoka making a big sacrifice to defeat Thrawn and his army. Because one, we don't see, obviously, we don't know about Thrawn. I can't see Thrawn not being part of the First Order if he was still alive at the time they were coming around, because he was such a stalwart of the Empire and such a great tactical mind. He would be part of the leading force in the galaxy, so to speak. So I see this being the end of Thrawn. I say Ahsoka as well because when we get to Episode 9, when Rey's on Exegol, and we can hear Ahsoka's voice as being one of the Jedi that Rey hears. So she's dead at this point in time anyway. So I see Ahsoka sacrificing herself for the greater good and being a martyr for the cause in this film to defeat Thrawn and taking Thrawn with her. So that was my predictions for this film.
And all of them are very, very, very possible. Obviously, we know Thrawn has to die, and it could be very much like a Palpatine thing, like his contingency plan. He's in my in my honor, the First Order will arise as I'm dying. It could be very much like that, and if that happens, it ties in beautiful. Makes all sense why a new First Order arose and where they got all the fun, got all the push for that. And Ahsoka, I could see Ahsoka dying, but not Bo-Katan or Sabine or Mando or anybody like that. It's always like coming like a Defenders movie,
Yeah.
Better quality, obviously, but it's always coming like that.
Yeah, I liked the Defenders. Don't knock it.
I didn't mind it. I just know a lot of people didn't like it.
Oh, I know. Yeah, not everyone was super hyped by it, but yeah, I quite enjoyed it, to be fair. But yeah, I don't see that. I see there being a couple of deaths in this film. I even potentially pegged Boba Fett to be someone that could pass away in this film, because by this stage he's going to be a bit older. Like I think the character would be maybe mid-60s, possibly late 70s. Late 60s at that stage. It could be a perfect way to wrap up his story as well. Especially if they're going to stick with this whole Boba Fett's changed. He's not the ruthless bounty hunter he once was. He's now a leader, someone responsible that keeps an eye out for everyone else. So potentially, I could see him leading a revolt against Thrawn and the Empire remnants in this film, and sacrifice, or not, or just being someone else that could be knocked off on that film. So
could Boba Fett be possibly? Could Boba Fett be like Solo? New baddie has to kill a legacy character straight off the bat to be a threat.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue with that is that the fans would kick off big time if you're just gonna. You know me, I like a good death in a series or a film. I think it's needed. So I don't always like the big sacrifice as a martyr for the cause death. Sometimes people just get killed without meaning or without it being like a really big thing. In war that happens. The fact that so many people make it through for so long alive is ridiculous to me. I think whilst I think I think it would be a good thing if they did do that at the start of this film, to like Thrawn lays down how serious he is and he has Boba Fett killed. But I think that it was a bit like Maria Hill's death in Secret Invasion, where she's sort of killed for no reason to hurt someone else. And whilst I think that would be a really good motivator for the rest of them, a bit like Coulson's death in Avengers, they use that to motivate the team to come together. The fans would kick off that would be Boba Fett's end, so to speak. So I don't think they would do that because they're not afraid to do some things, but I think they would be too afraid to do something like that to such a well-renowned and loved character.
That's true. Maybe not, but they would definitely have to be someone significant will have to die to bring everybody together to be like, got it. And what's funny is that I have no doubt that everyone will come together, but you know who won't be there? Luke. Luke will not be there for some apparent reason. He'll be like, yeah, he's pretty good.
He's just chilling on his planet with his ant bots, building stuff.
Yeah.
Thinking about killing Ben Solo in his sleep. And
I'm going to kill that little kid. Oh, God. No. Father like son. But no. Any final words on this episode, my good friend? Any final?
I mean, there's a great cameo that we haven't even mentioned yet. Captain Rex.
Oh yeah.
We get to see him in the first flashback, and what's even great is that the way they split this in two. So it's the start of the Clone Wars, and you've got the Phase 1 clones with their Phase 1 armor and the different helmets, and we do see Captain Rex with his Phase 1 helmet, and obviously voiced by Tamora Morrison.
It's very brief. When I rewatched it, I thought, God, that's really a blink and a miss it moment.
Yeah. And obviously he does speak to her very briefly before charging back off into battle. And then we do see him as again, a very brief cameo in the Siege of Mandalore flashback as well, where he's more running alongside Ahsoka into battle. And we do see his newer helmet and armor and stuff. But that was super psyched. It's not the Captain Rex cameo I think a lot of us wanted, because we want to see either the current day Captain, like the old Captain Rex that we got to see maybe in Rebels. But to see a live action Captain Rex in his armor was another one of those moments that made this really special. A lot of us wanted that for a long time. So that was to me a worthy mention, because I almost passed over it in my own review and in a way that I almost forgot about it to mention it. And I'm like, how can I forget about Captain Rex?
Well, you know who else also, not a cameo, but who got a name drop? Princess Leia.
This is true. Senator Organa.
Yeah. She got a name drop, which I actually, I want to go lie, I missed it the first time round. It was the second time I was like, hey.
Although what this series, the last couple of episodes have done really well again, is just lean onto how absolutely rubbish the New Republic are.
Oh my God. Yes. Like, Mike, no wonder you lost. No wonder your planet go explode. No wonder the First Order rise. You are all useless as shit.
Like, they're irritating me now, because obviously we see a bit more of it in Mando with obviously Dr. Pershing, and they don't really give a crap. They're so convinced that they've what's the word? They've taken all the people that were loyal to the Empire and they've sorted them all out, and they should be now loyal to the New Republic, and they're like, clearly that's not going to happen.
No, and you're all just as bad as red shirt Star Trek people. That is essentially all you are.
But it was a couple of episodes ago when Hera was talking to Mon Mothma and the other senators, and they had a really good showdown. To be fair, I especially love that line where Hera was talking to, I can't remember his name. It was like Shoring or something, and they were just like, did you fight in the war? And he's like, no, and she's like, that's right. You just sat back and waited to see who came out on top. And I likened that scene to, you're a Mass Effect fan, aren't you?
I do.
Shepard and the Council. The way that they go at each other, that reminded me very reminiscent of that kind of scene.
Yes,
but the fact that we see more of in this episode of the fact that the New Republic don't really buy into what Ahsoka and Hera are doing, the fact they're threatening Hera with being stripped of her rank, and it's just like, in a way, I'm like, I'm glad you bastards got blown up in episode 7.
I know. Like I'm just watching this going. I feel like you just experienced this entire thing. The Empire's fallen, yet you're just like, yeah, we're good. Yo, like some bad shit down there. Anyway, that's pretty good. Anyway, let's look over here. Yeah, you should be going there. You should really be doing that. Oh no, you really shouldn't be doing that either. Oh look, we're being taken over. Oh god, New Republic.
It's just like, don't listen to the Jedi that survived Order 66 and has been through the change of the Empire and stuff. Don't listen to the general that's been through the battle with the Empire since she was a kid, and come out the other side. And her and her crew seem to know generally what they're doing, but it's fine. Just ignore all of them and don't take their threat seriously. It's literally Shepard and the Reapers all over again, and I'm traumatized by it.
Yeah, why should you tell me, man? Why should you listen to them? Well, what have they ever done for us? New Republic forever.
Yeah, it's just seriously annoyed me, the New Republic have in Mando and now in this. So again, worthy of a mention, but because they're such absolute douches.
I agree, and this episode is really showing it. And it's interesting enough, like Mon Mothma, yeah. She's like she was doing so much in Andor, but it feels like she's not doing anything here.
She looks burdened by the command of it all, and the fact that she knows, I think, that she would probably do things differently if it was completely up to her, but she has to bow to the views and the comments of the other senators around her. And she does look troubled by it all. And yeah, like it weighs heavily on her, but she can't really do much because she's at the whim of the rest of the council and stuff around her.
Well, you could tell in that, if you could really tell in that first briefing that she felt like I would, looking around going, I'd give you the power, but everyone here doesn't believe me because they're all shit.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was just one last thing that popped into my head in terms of I don't think the timeline necessarily matches up, but there was a scene in Mandalorian when they're traveling in light speed and we see the Purrgil traveling, and someone said, wouldn't it be cool if Grogu sensed the Purrgil traveling because he also sensed Ahsoka in the mouth of one of the Purrgil at that time? And I was like, I don't think it quite matches up because Ahsoka would take place after that. But that would be really cool, little tie-in if Grogu senses the Purrgil and Ahsoka traveling in light speed through the Force next to him. That would have been a cool little wrap-in.
Yeah, I remember that scene too. Yeah, that would be a great connection. Like, Grogu's like, oh look, Ahsoka's down there. Yeah, buddy, whales. Yeah, they come out a lot. But yeah, that's a big question. Is like, how often would you actually see Purrgils in the same hyperspace channel in this vast galactic universe? What is the chances that they would be multiple herds, schools, kettles, clusters?
A murder of Purrgil, is that correct?
Yeah, well, that was exactly what was going to happen to the Republic if they didn't move. But this cluster of whales, how often would there be multiple clusters that you would see?
Well, even Hera thought they were until they saw them in that episode of Rebels, Hera thought they were a myth because she'd heard stories about them of them smashing into people and it being in space lanes, and the whole rumor that the Purrgil were what inspired people to create hyperspace travel in the first place. But we've seen more Purrgil obviously in Rebels in this series than we probably ever thought we were going to get. But
that's true, and I've just double checked.
Point.
It's a pod. That's what you
A
call a pod.
Okay. Yeah, because it is a pod of whales in real life. So it's
So a pod of Purrgils is a pod, and right now you're listening to a podcast.
Oh yes,
boom.
We're together in a pod.
Yes. Oh God. Do we have to get in the whale's mouth? Where are we going to go?
I am the same size of a whale, so it's probably appropriate. So.
No, you're not. No, you're not. For anyone who's listening and not watching, you know he's not.
I am. I'm a fat man. They call me Big Andy for a reason, and it's not because of my ego.
I was about to say ego. I was. But yeah, that's right. Everyone looks, besides Ahsoka, everyone looks stunned when they see those whales. Which to me, if I was in a spaceship and I saw a whale flying, not swimming, flying, I feel like I would also be really freaked out.
Oh yeah, it's the great thing about fiction. We get to write these things and we get to see them and then speculate about them, and it's one of the best things that we get to do, isn't it? So
that's right. It's a good stem why we started podcasting.
Absolutely.
And here we are now. Good sir. But look, 3 episodes left. Ahsoka is, I feel like, exceeding everyone's expectations every single episode. And you are right. How the next 3 episodes are going to stack up with or without Thrawn, and because Anakin. But well, actually, no. I forgot to actually ask this before. Would you be happy if this was the last time we saw Hayden Christensen as Anakin? Are you content?
Ooh.
If this was the last time.
As a super Anakin fan, the answer is technically no. I'd need to see more of him at some point. But in terms of if this is where he was left off in the Star Wars world, imparting one last lesson. I mean, I think the difficult thing is it's hard to see him appearing to someone like Ahsoka and him never having appeared to Luke. This is his son. This is his son who. This is why it lends in more of it. Is this a vision in Ahsoka's head rather than a real life sort of vision for her that's actually happening? Because it's hard to think, why would he appear to Ahsoka when he has the ability to do so, but not to someone like Luke, who he could be teaching lessons to and stuff like that. But
he does at the end. Just a smile, look at the ground, and be like, "Yeah,
but I mean, after that, he could have appeared after that, and imparted some wisdom, especially when he's on that island alone in The Last Jedi. He's like, he had every opportunity to appear to him and give him one last lesson for the sake of it. And whether he's just sitting back and going, I was hands off with him my whole life, I'm still going to do that now.
Well, that's right. I think one of the best memes I saw was Ahsoka turns to Anakin and is like, Anakin, and he turns around and he's like, I need you to go find my son, go to Exegol. The Emperor is still there. He's got a massive ship, everything going together, and tell my son not to kill his grandson. I mean, his nephew. Don't tell him to do that. Go find it. Like, it was this whole paragraph.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. I think on the back of that, the best one I saw was when it is that scene at the end of episode 6 where Anakin, Kenobi, and Yoda are appearing as Force ghosts to Luke, and they're like, should we tell him the Emperor survived and is on Exegol? It's like, no, let him find out on his own.
Bunch of dicks.
Yeah. But I think if this is the last time we do see Anakin in any Star Wars material, it's not the worst way to sign off, because it's such a great fan service, and I hate these people that say fan service is rubbish, because I'm like, are you a fan if you say fan service is rubbish? We like fan service. It's what we need sometimes. And so if this is his last appearance, I wouldn't be displeased that this is how he signs off. Just this cheeky little episode 3 smile of Anakin is something good to sign off on.
That's true. That's very true. And I'm with you, man. If If someone told me this was the last time, this is it. This is what last time Hayden Christensen was going to pick up that saber. But like, well, then he went out with a bang. He went out with a great performance, and it was only the episode was only 50 minutes. He got 25 minutes of screen time. Boom, nailed it.
Yeah,
he walks away, and he reinforces again that he was the right pick when George Lucas picked him.
absolutely. Yeah.
Like, just puts another nail on that yeah, he was the right man for the job. But ladies and gentlemen, that is our review for episode 5. Let us know in the comments what did you think of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. Did you really enjoy it, or do you think it was a giant waste of time with Anakin? And are you not excited for Aquaman 2? That's all. I'd love to know everyone's feedback. And again, Andy, thank you so much for coming on this episode. You are the man, and please let everybody know where they can find your amazing podcast everywhere. And I've also noticed that you're uploading your episodes on YouTube, which is fantastic. I got the notification for that. And good luck next week.
Thank you, man. I mean, thank you so much for having me on again. I couldn't have imagined a better person to chat about this episode with, and obviously you know my love for Star Wars, so I really do appreciate you having me on again to chat about it. Everyone can find me, the Galactic Podcast, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I am on Twitch, although I haven't really gained much on there recently. I only try and game on there a little bit, but I haven't really been on much recently. And yeah, I'm finally getting everything uploaded to YouTube. It's taking a little bit of time to catch up. I'm almost there. And one of our episodes is actually, I think, my most watched episode so far on YouTube. So your pretty face on there is you've got a lot of records. Most on my show, you've been the most guest that's come on the most times, the longest episode, the most viewed YouTube episode.
I need to stop.
But yes, thank you, and I appreciate the good luck for anyone listening. I'm getting married in 9 days, so I will soon be officially off the market. So any applications, get them in now before I get married. But no, I appreciate you having me back on, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah. No, thank you. It has been a blast. Always a pleasure. And as always, you always have a spot to come back on the show at any time. I know there is so much coming out over the next few months, which we were talking about before this episode started. So I have no doubt you'll be on again. And I wish you all the best. I hope you have a fantastic day and enjoy your week off.
Thank you. I will do.
So everyone, until next time, happy ranting.
Thanks for listening to Lights, Camera, Rant. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, leave us a rating and review, and be sure to tell your friends. Until next time, happy ranting.